private nature center. And Kelly is all over the Detroit area as the person getting people excited about citizen science, about identifying pollinators, documenting pollinators, and contributing to science information, just your average person, and particularly interest in families, kids, and making this uh, giving back to the larger community in terms of yes, you are a part of this wonderful cycle of life, and not just as an observer, but also as a reporter. So Kelly is going to tell us who many of us are maybe not first generation electronics people. And this is not something that, of course, the light bulb was invented before I was born. But other than that, uh, I think there's just a whole world of nature and sharing with each other that was just not something that was on my radar. Oh, that was also invented before I was born. Um, but anyway, Kelly has a lot to offer us today. So, Kelly.
Flip this on here. Does that work okay? And I'm going to try to speak. Is this loud enough for everyone if I don't use the handheld microphone? Because I feel like if I have all these things, I might um, mess something up. But yeah, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I'm so excited to be here today to talk with you all about one of my absolute favorite things, community science. So, oh, let's make sure that this works. It was working before. Hold on, I'm sorry. Why aren't my slides advancing? Ooh. Just after we were talking about all the tech stuff, right? Oh, goodness. It was working, right? Okay. I guess I'll just have to. It's not letting me do it at all. Bob, would it be because? Hmm. Okay. This is so odd. Why isn't it working? Mhm. Well, how do I advance slides? Oh, there we go. I'll just have to use the old-fashioned click. Oh my goodness. Okay, thank you for bearing with me there. So just a little bit about what I plan to talk with you tonight. I'll do a little bit of an introduction about myself. We'll talk about what community science is, who can do it, and why you should get involved, how to get started, then some projects, tips, and tools, and then hopefully we'll have some time at the end for some questions. So my name is Kelly, and this is, if you see me out at a Wild Ones event or just out in the public in general, this is typically how you'll see me. You can find me that way. I got into native plants because I was interested in everything that they drew, all the insects, animals, all those interactions really excited me. And it was the monarch actually and milkweed was my first experience. You know, I planted milkweed in my backyard, a small little pollinator garden with my daughter, and I was amazed that that summer the monarch butterfly showed up, and just the life that continued to show up as we added to that garden and diversified it. So I also, a little bit of background, I am not a, you know, I'm not an entomologist, not a botanist. I went to school for art, surprising, right? And and photography. So I was really excited that I could use those skills, and you don't have to be a formally trained photographer, but use that to contribute to community science, which I'll get into in a little bit later. But I should have mentioned, I'm in Grosse Pointe Park. So, and I am with a Wild Ones Wayne County chapter. We're a fairly new chapter that started a few years ago. And when we started our chapter, I was looking at the different positions, and of course, community science chair jumped out at me, and I was like, that's the one. Not a lot of people are really talking about this, and it really is like a missing link in this important work that we are doing, right? We can plant the plants, but I want you to stick around and notice who's coming and documenting that and sharing that. I'm also I'm involved with a lot of different organizations, but I also recently joined SciStarter, which I'll talk about a little later, as an ambassador for citizen science, and basically to help elevate the importance of community science, as well as providing resources to people and facilitating community engagement. So let's start. What is community science, right? What comes to mind when you hear that phrase? Anyone? Just throw it out there. Is anyone doing community science right now?
Did a community science project with the monarch butterflies in terms of mostly putting them down and seeing that was your everyday person.
Yeah.
Pretending to be a scientist.
I love that. Bio blitzes, absolutely. So we'll get into that when I talk about projects, basically tallying all the different, picking a day and a time and getting people together to tally everything that they're seeing in a specific location. Absolutely. So it is so broad. So you'll see a variety of projects I'll talk about today for a variety of interests. So this is the definition that SciStarter came up with, which I absolutely love. Community science is a collaboration between scientists and those of us that are curious, concerned, and motivated to make a difference. So if you are curious, you are qualified, right? I always talk about, as kids, we are born like scientists, right? That's how we learn about the world around us. And somehow, as we get older, we think that kind of exploration and curiosity isn't as important anymore, but it so is, because that's what connects us with nature, right? And that also that urge to just share everything that you see or that you hear about, that kids do, right? They're constantly asking questions. So we need to kind of channel that inner child again. But we're halfway there because you guys are with the plants, you're gardeners, you're already invested. These are just a few of the different terms you may hear when we talk about community science. It's also been referred to as citizen science, participatory science, crowdsourced science, and volunteer monitoring. But really, it's how people of all ages can contribute about things and issues they care about. And now this is working. So collaboration, I mentioned collaboration, right? So this is one example of scientists collaborating with the public to figure out this mystery. We never knew where monarchs used to go, right? And so Fred and Nora Urquhart, they were scientists, and Fred, as a child, he always wanted to answer that question. Where did the monarchs go, right? We see them in the summer, and then all of a sudden, they're just gone. Uh-oh. Okay. Don't move or breathe, right? So what they did is in the 50s, they coordinated a volunteer program for the general public to help them tag these butterflies. So they developed all these different, methods, and they ended up landing on the one that you see pictured here, which is basically based off of, when you see stickers on produce in the grocery store, right? So that's basically what it is, a very thin sticker. They figured out exactly where, it should be on the monarch wing. It's in the mitten shape. They call it the discal cell. See, I can use fancy words, right? We can learn these things. We are scientists, right? So yeah, they basically put out an ad in the paper and they said, help us, here are the protocols, help us tag these butterflies. And for many years, people started participating. And not a lot of people, you may have heard of the tagging program, but not a lot of people know that the first one that was found in Mexico was tagged by a school teacher and his 2 students, right? So these are just average people. And it was their tag that was found in Mexico that broke, this mystery wide open, and they discovered that that's where they go. And the Monarch Watch tagging program is still in existence today, so you can still learn how to do this. This is my daughter and I actually at a BioBlitz at Udolph Garden, and we were showing people how she is like an expert catcher with that net. She's better than I am. But we were catching and tagging wild monarchs. No, our tags have not been found, but we will still continue to do it because how exciting would that be if one was found? And now, last fall, they actually have a new program where, how many of you have heard about the radio tags that they're doing now? So if you see on the picture at the top there, they've developed these radio solar tags that are basically run off of Bluetooth. And so our phones are acting like they're picking up the movement. So we're refining, like learning about exactly how they move, right? So we learned they move, to Mexico, but how does, because there's different populations. There's Eastern population, Western population, small population down in Florida. So, do those ever mix or do they ever cross? So there's so many questions and so many things left to be discovered. And I think that's my whole point, really. If you take anything from this presentation, is that there is so much we don't know, right? And we can be the ones that help solve those mysteries. Yes, I will get to that a little bit later. Absolutely. It'll be under projects. So who can do community science? I think we kind of already talked about this. But really, if you don't have any training at all, you have no specialty in that field, you are more than qualified. In fact, it's almost better that you don't know. In the work that I've been doing, I kind of got into all of this. And again, like I said, I'm an art major, right? But I've become friends with entomologists and, people studying all of these different things. And, a friend of mine once told me, she's like, wow, you have such a unique perspective because I go to a plant or something and, I'm kind of expecting certain things, but you're coming at it as like a blank slate. You may notice something that I would have just gone, and not really, thought about it. So let that curiosity guide your education. So it's really about contributing to science, but also learning along the way, right? You can develop expertise. So a lot of people at this point probably are thinking, well, how can I just contribute if I don't know what I'm looking at or what, but a lot of these projects have training programs. 40% of the projects use photos to validate the data. So, you're not just saying, I saw a monarch here. Well, try to get a picture of it so that it's validated. Projects have multiple participants. And all these observations are cross-checked by experts. A good example of this is I was reporting on eBird, and I reported that I thought I heard or saw a killdeer, and it was way early. But I had the audio, and I submitted it, and it got flagged. And I got an email from one of the researchers like the next day, and he's like, can you send me that audio? And it's okay. It's okay to be wrong, too. It's okay to make mistakes. Because what if you are right? Then you are really, contributing something. So the answer to that question is everyone. And these are just a few pictures here. So I do an outdoor program at the library. We try to incorporate, so with families doing different things. Here's Bob up here, who's running our Zoom. That was on our walk. I think that was on the walk that we were on. And this is on like when you do your garden tours, right? So when you're going out and doing these field trips and experiencing these things together, you can be documenting it and sharing what you see with scientists. So when you do community science, this is basically the process, the skills that you do need, right? We talked about asking questions, that I wonder, right? I notice. So when you're going into something, the best way to observe is those are really great prompts. I wonder, I notice, it reminds me of, right? Those are really great starting points. Then collecting the data, taking pictures, making notes, reporting the data. I think that's where we need to get, right? Really is like making sure we share these things through these platforms. And then there is another part, which I will go into, is there's an opposite problem. So, right, we need more data, but we also have a lot of data that needs to be analyzed. So there are some projects that you would just log in and you would go through maybe like trail cam footage, for example, and tell scientists what you're seeing because they don't have the time to sit there, right? The research hours, but our average in your downtime, you can go through and do that and help them. So that's, the analyzing data. Humans are still better than computers at recognizing patterns. So we are valuable. And then communicating the results is usually done by the projects and project managers, and I will show you some examples of that because it's really great to contribute, but it's also awesome to be able to figure out where to go to see like how your data is being used. Okay, so a small, simple exercise here. Imagine this is a tree in your neighborhood. What do you notice?
Blooming.
It's blooming, right? What else? It's pink, right? There are buds. What color are the leaves? There's leaves, right? It seems so simple, right? To us, are there flower visitors, right? All of these things, most importantly, where are you located and what time of year it is, right? Because if it's, well, we've been noticing this as gardeners, right? This plant is blooming and it's October. It shouldn't be, it should be blooming in spring. So these are all, it may seem very simple to us to just be walking by a tree in our neighborhood and go, oh yeah, there's a flower on there. There's some green leaves, but these are important details that that are very easy for us to just see, right, and report, but are very important because there is, so this is one example. There's the USA National Phenology Network. So phenology is basically what I just described, right? It's the study of seasonal changes. So when birds are migrating back, when insects are visiting flowers, when a flower is blooming, when it's in bud, all these different things are really important because that helps us track, the effects of climate change. This is a really great book that came out last year. Teresa Crimmins is the director of the USA National Phenology Network. So if you want to learn more about phenology and how important it is to their research, you can check that book out as well as their website. They do have a National Phenology Week in March. We just missed it, but they usually do tons of webinars, and that's where actually I learned about the book and all of the different projects. One example is Nature's Notebook, which I don't generally share with because it's not a great starter project because it requires kind of a long-term commitment. So like this is for example, they have a redbud project. So if you have a redbud on your property, then you would commit to say, okay, I'm going to observe my redbud, every day or every week and record back what you're seeing, and it just builds the data. So it's different because these are projects specifically picked by scientists that they want to study the redbud, right? So, but yeah, if you want to learn more about that, so this is a great resource. So yay, you just participated in community science, right? By making those observations. We talked a little bit, we'll get into a little bit more why it is important. So these are some of my photos in my backyard habitat. And like I said, there will always be more unknown than known. Looking and making observations like this, especially in our gardens, can deepen our connections with nature. They can also inform our gardening practices. So when violets started popping up in my lawn, and I just learned that they were very prolific in my backyard, I started noticing flickers, which do you know flickers? They are our ant-eating woodpeckers. And violets are dispersed by ants. So, when I was observing, I was watching the flickers, looking through the violets, and I was wondering, what are they doing? And I'm taking pictures. I decided to use the violets as a border on my along the sidewalk there, and what would the flickers followed, So it was just really an incredible way of learning about caterpillars that dress themselves up in flower petals. They don't use leaves of the plant. They actually use the petals of the flowers to decorate themselves to camouflage. That's the camouflage looper moth. So cool on Rudbeckia. Like if I actually didn't plant Rudbeckia specifically because I didn't think it was interesting and I saw it around all the time. But when I did plant it and I started really looking, I was like, oh my gosh, I just wasn't looking. There's so many amazing things. And if you don't know what this insect is up here on the upper right corner, that you should start to know. That is the spotted lanternfly. It's a nymph. So I did bring brochures in the back here with more information about spotted lanternfly, but because I was out in my backyard looking, I was the first one to report in Grosse Pointe. So they are, yeah. So like we can be out there, and that nymph I mean, it was like this big, teeny tiny. Oh, I'm sorry, they're bad. They're an invasive, they're a tree hopper. And they are threatening the grape industry and hop industry. And so, yeah, we want to make sure we're reporting where they are. I've been tracking the spread for, I believe they've been in Michigan since 2017-ish. But I've been watching the, the spread go like this. So little things like that, when we're out there and looking, we can help inform conservation practices and let people that are monitoring those things know where things are moving. Oh, and my little Nessus sphinx moth here is just so sweet. I found out that obviously he wasn't there for the petunias, but I let grapevine and Virginia creeper grow along a back section of my fence. And when I looked the Nessus sphinx up on iNaturalist, it said that was one of their hosts. So again, like, why is this amazing insect in my backyard? And I'll talk about iNaturalist in a little bit, but I use that to kind of do some detective work and go, oh, that's why you're in my yard. Okay, I'm going to leave that plant. So, and one of the most exciting things too, I think, about community science is that it can potentially lead to new discoveries. This was a statistic that was shared during an iNaturalist webinar that I just kind of blew my mind, that there are, 4.5 to 7 million insects that remain unnamed, and 2,000 new plant species are discovered every year. So that's a lot of chances for us to get out there and discover something new. And also, on the flip side of that is species are disappearing faster than we can record or learn about them. So it's really important that we're out there looking and capturing and sharing what we find. These are just a few of the recent headlines, I guess, in the last year. This one actually is the most recent. A moth that was thought to be extinct for almost 150 years reappeared because someone took a picture of it and submitted it to iNaturalist, and it was rediscovered. There was a backyard birder. I love this lady who noticed a blue jay that looked a little bit different. It ended up being a hybrid of a blue and green jay. And it was just in her backyard, and she took pictures, shared it, and scientists were like, oh my gosh, this is a new species, And this story here about the young boy, so this is an 8-year-old boy. I love this. So he noticed ants moving what he thought were seeds, right? I mentioned the violets. And he showed his dad, who is an entomologist, and his dad's like, those aren't seeds, those are actually galls. So if you're not familiar with what a gall is, it's basically a baby wasp home. So he discovered this new connection between oaks and ants and wasps now that we never even knew existed. So pretty cool that like an 8-year-old was just out there. We need to be more like that, right? Looking closer to discover these connections. And that's what just really keeps me going is there are just so many there's so much interconnectedness in nature, and we're still just beginning to learn about it. That's okay. And I did want to throw this one in here because while it's not native plant and garden related, it is one of the many projects you can help contribute to Alzheimer's research. just by playing a game. So this is, you can find this on SciStarter, and I'll share the database in a little bit here. But just in one weekend, this is kind of what I mentioned about the research hours. Community scientists, what was it? An equivalent of 3.5 months of lab time in one weekend. People were able to just jump on this game and go through all this information. So really, any issue that you care about, you can make a difference. So how do you get started? All right, so these are very like entry-level projects. So if you are into monarchs, also hummingbirds and any sort of like orioles, birds, you can use Journey North to help track migrations and seasons. And basically how this works is you go to the website, you start a free account, and you can take a picture of what you see, and you go through and you upload it and share that. You can also upload like the first, when your first milkweed pops up in your garden, take a picture of it, and then you go to the first milkweed category and share that. And what's really cool about the Journey North website is that you can also go to these live interactive maps, and so you can watch all the community scientists all in your data points. And so this is like, these are monarchs migrating. This was quite a few weeks ago, but you can watch in real time as people report where they're seeing. You can kind of follow the migration, which I think is really, really fun. And then also, I also wanted to mention the symbolic migration project. So if any of you work with kids, this is a really fun program through Journey North that they do. And basically, you can do it with classrooms, youth groups. I do it with our library. We do just an event. But what it is it mimics the migration. So it's an educational tool. And the kids will color, you'll see the life-size monarch. And then you send that with an ambassador monarch, which is the bigger one, right? So you design the ambassador monarch, you have your little monarchs, and then you mail it to them. And the ambassador, the big monarch, actually goes to school children in Mexico. And then your little monarchs get distributed to all the other participants. And then in the spring, you get little monarchs back. So you can see, who is participating. And it mimics the migration journey and helps children learn about how many different countries are involved and the travels through the migration. So it's a really great program. This is also along with monarchs, something very simple. If you see a monarch on a flower, you can take a picture of it and share with Xerces Society what flower it was using to nectar. So this is also showing you how the data is used and still being used, but it was first used to create these guides. So we think about all these different conservation organizations. They share with us, okay, what should you plant for the monarch butterfly? But you can actually help make a difference in the study because you're sharing. I planted this and I had monarchs come and nectar on that. So this is just a study showing that this database survey was primarily used in creating this guide for the Great Lakes region. And if you're interested in learning more, because there are tons of different community science projects related to monarchs, you can go to the Monarch Joint Venture website. They have the Monarch Network Hub. And a lot of these are, they're self-paced courses. Many of them are free or by donation. And you can learn about like the Monarch Larva Monitoring Project. And there's a specific course that tells you about all the different projects that you can get involved with, depending on, you want to think about how much time do I want to commit and all of that. But there are lots of ways to make a difference, whether you're, just doing one observation here and there, or whether you're committing to a more long-term project. All right, who are birders in here? Who looks at birds? Okay, yeah, so you qualify, right? I know, I always ask that. It's like, we're always hesitant to say, I'm a birder, but you are. If you're looking at birds, you're a birder. If you don't know about the Merlin Bird ID app, I was talking with someone earlier about this. It's an incredible way to learn about the birds that you're hearing and seeing around you. It's also a great way to embarrass your teenage daughter while walking around going like this. But yeah, so it has like it has a sound ID, so you can a recording, you can record the sound and it will tell you what birds it thinks it's hearing. And you can go through, you can enter like the size of the bird, the color, and kind of go through that way, or you can also upload a picture. So it's a really great learning tool. And once you feel more comfortable, you can get set up with eBird, which is more of a checklist platform, and that's where you can report your sightings. If you have the two connected, you can say, I saw this bird on Merlin, and it will go to your eBird. So you don't let eBird be, don't shy away because you don't think you're an expert, but the way to submit your data would be through the eBird platform. And I also wanted to share another really great learning tool, especially because right now we are in the middle of ramping up with migration season. So if you haven't heard of Birdcast, it is incredible. So you can go to the website and you can type in your area, your county, or your state, and it will tell you how many birds flew over at night, like last night. This is last October during peak migration. I mean, these numbers are just incredible, right? And I think it really just puts it into perspective. So when I'm out there advocating and I'm talking about the migration, if I put, hey, 3 million birds crossed over last night, you know, shut your lights off. It's important. It's just a great, I think, learning tool, not necessarily for reporting, but just for sharing that information and getting that out there. And then say, you know, you can kind of then go into, hey, have you checked out Merlin, right? So if you do use eBird, you can go, they do have like a newsletter section or a blog section that you can go to and find, you know, different reports and things. And this was one that was shared last May. And I think it really just is a great example of how, you know, it's really important to pay attention to what's common as well as what's cool. Like, it's cool to be like, oh my gosh, I saw a yellow-rumped warbler, right? But those robins and are just as important. And this study kind of demonstrated that we are losing a lot more of our common species. So it's important to report those as well. Like, don't just think, I'm just taking a picture of a robin and sharing that, but that's important data. Okay, so iNaturalist. If you're going to start somewhere, this is probably one of the best. This is my favorite learning and reporting tools. So iNaturalist, it's a free platform and an app. How many of you use iNaturalist already? Okay, great, awesome. Do you use it just on the app, or do you go on the desktop? Just the app. Okay, if you're just on the app, you're missing a ton of stuff. I'll show you a little bit here. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So it's a great way to it's an ID tool, right? So you can use the app to identify the plants and animals and things that you're seeing. But what's great is that if it reaches research grade, then it will contribute to science. So not only are you learning, but you're also contributing. It also is very social. So you know, when you're uploading something, the community is helping you identify things. So you're networking. I love that, networking with experts and other nature fans. And so, I also wanted to mention Seek. So Seek is more for kids, but anybody can use it. I say it's more for kids because you don't need an account to actually get it set up. Like, no personal information is shared with Seek. So it's better for like classrooms and things like that. But it is also a great learning tool. It's gamified, so there's fun challenges. You can earn badges. So it's really great. It's up to you which one you want to use. You can also use both. You can connect the two. But I really highly recommend iNaturalist because it's just such a fun tool. So you can use it to learn about the biodiversity in your yard, right? So this is, I've been keeping track of all the different species as I add native plantings that show up. And I am so proud that I have almost as many species of moss as I do birds. Yes, because moss caterpillars specifically are our heroes in our gardens. But this is what the app interface looks like right here. And I did want to mention, if you are using it though to take observations in your, like in personal spaces, in your yard or in like at a school or something like that, there is, you want to make sure that you set it to obscured. There's a geo-privacy thing on there that you want to make sure that you select obscured. Because what that will do is, if it's open, it'll tell you where you took that picture, like the exact location. But if it's obscured, there'll be kind of like a circle around it. So it'll just give, so it gives scientists enough information to understand where you're observing, but it doesn't tell you exactly, tell them exactly where you live. And private, you don't typically want to ever use because that's just, then your observation won't be able to be used for science. That would be more for just you. Yeah. This setting, you can do it on the app. Yep. Yeah, you might. We can talk afterwards too, and I can take a look at it. But yeah, that's a good point. The app, the new app. So when I asked about the app, they have like an old one and a new one. So you might, I can talk with you afterwards, but you might have the, you might not have the updated version. And in the updated version, it has a lot more like features you can actually see as opposed to when it was first released. You didn't have like the, all the details. Okay, so on a desktop, this is one thing that you can't do on your app. So remember when I was talking about phenology before? So there are sections on your observation called annotations, and you can go through. So for like insects and things, you select that, is it alive or dead? The evidence of the presence could be the organism, it could be a pupa, it could be a construction, and then you can select the life stage, larva. So that helps add more data. As you can see, like right here, many of the applications that are on iNaturalist, which I believe they have 4 million users now, many of them are don't have annotations, which are really helpful. And like you can see with this Jack in the Pulpit here, I'm sorry, not Jack in the Pulpit. No, wait, why am I forgetting which one that is? Anyway, you can see the fruits and seeds right here. Is it Jack in the Pulpit? Am I okay? When I looked at it, I was like, is that right? Yeah, it's going to fruit and seed, right? So so I can go through in the annotations and select, okay, it has fruits or seeds. Okay, it has green leaves. So it's just adding, that extra amount of data that helps, like if a scientist was looking for, I want to, study this plant when it's in fruit or something like that,
Bill?
Yes.
AI is being used in possibly maybe the identification of
Yeah, AI is being used, but it's not generative AI. There's a difference. So, but yeah, AI is, there's a feature when you go on the app and you click on that little positive button, it'll open up whether you want to take a photo, take multiple photos, or you want to use the like AI image recognition to have it suggest what you're what you're seeing. And Seek has that same feature as well. So it is a good learning tool, but you don't want to rely on it, or if you aren't able to positively ID what you're seeing, it's best to actually just say butterfly or bird or plant. Like it sounds really, but it's better to do that than to upload and just not put anything at all, because then your observation goes into this big unknown category, which actually is a perfect segue into what I was going to mention here, was that you can actually help identify unknowns. So when you go on the desktop, you can search through the unknown photos, and you can just kind of go through and go bird, plant, flowering plant, and it bumps those observations up out of the great abyss. And it helps people that are looking specifically to identify a bird, a plant in that area. So it's really how beginners can really make a difference and help with these observations, even if you're not a bird expert. Mm-hmm.
Are these apps that you're like single species picture sort of approach, or do some of them do here's the flower and the caterpillar?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good point. So when you're making an observation, you want to make an observation for, like, okay, let's say you had a picture of a butterfly on a plant, right? You want to make, if you want to make an observation for the butterfly, then make it for the butterfly. And then for the plant, you would make its own observation for that. Yes, they want you to do single species, because otherwise, yeah, it gets, and sometimes you'll see when you go on there, like if it's a beginner, they'll have like a bunch of different photos in one, and yeah, you just want to make sure that you do one species per observation. Okay, so going into projects, tips and tools. So this is this is where we were going to talk about the BioBlitz. So BioBlitzes, so right now, here's a good example. Right now, MSU has this science festival, and they are doing a BioBlitz for the whole state of Michigan, as well as different nature centers are participating. So I'll be at Greenfest at Belle Isle Nature Center on Sunday, and they're one of the participating nature centers. So when you join their project on iNaturalist, your observations in that location will go to their project. So that's essentially what it is. A BioBlitz is a tally of all living things in one area at a designated time, right? So we're going to Udolph Garden on this day. Everyone's invited. Let's go out and see how many different species we can record. That's essentially what a BioBlitz is. And this one just happens to be throughout the whole month of April. April is Citizen Science Month. And some of the cases, you don't have to join the project to actually participate. They encourage you to. But sometimes if the setting on the project is set a certain way, your observation will automatically go. Like, for example, there's like moths of Michigan, or, you know, I mean, there are a million different projects that you can contribute to. But basically, you know, land surveyors and different researchers, they will set up projects that you can join to help contribute. Like, okay, Matai, I know, has some. So when you're out here and you're observing and taking pictures, your observations will go to what they're studying here. There are like several different, so I mean, many parks have different projects. There's also any celebration throughout the year. So you've heard of probably like Pollinator Week, National Moth Week, the Great Backyard Bird Count is another one. These are all different projects that you can participate in. Literally, there is a project you could be doing community science all year long. So I think sometimes we just think about it in the summer months or when we're out there looking for birds and butterflies and bees. But there are lots of different monitoring surveys as well. So I'm blanking on the organization for your area. But like the Clinton River Watershed Council in my area, thank you, Huron River Watershed Council, they will have the equivalent of like what they have in our area, which are the vernal pool surveys. frog and toad surveys. And those are actually going on, like the trainings start in February, I think. And then, they're going on now. So lots of different opportunities. The stonefly search, I know, happens even in the winter. So they're looking for insects in the winter. I mean, it just kind of blows your mind, right? When you think about all these different opportunities and things you can get involved in. How do you find them? Okay, so hold on. Oh, well, I will go into that. There's a database through SciStarter that I will share in a minute here. But how do you find? I mean, so on iNaturalist, you can search projects through there. There are also on our Wayne County website for wild ones, I've put together a community science page that has links to all the different organizations and projects and things. So I will show that here in a minute as well. I did want to mention a big project that's coming up here at the end of April, which is called the City Nature Challenge. And you would find information about it on their website, but I'm helping organize the challenge for the Detroit Tri-County area. But you all can still participate in it's a global challenge, and it's the largest citizen science project that you can get involved in. It started out as a friendly competition between the California Academy of Sciences and the Natural History Museum in Los Angeles 10 years ago. And I think over those 10 years, through this challenge, which is just a 4-day challenge, they've gathered over, I think, almost 13 million observations. So it's just these projects are a great kind of motivator to get us out there and go, okay, the City Nature Challenge is happening at the end of April, right? We can go out and make observations. And that's exactly how I noticed that a viceroy caterpillar was munching on my willow here. So in the backyard, and I feel like I never would have really noticed that because I too, even though I'm doing this work, you're busy, you're doing stuff, but then, you have this thing, this motivator and go, I want to participate. Let's slow down and make it intentional and get out there and start looking. And with this project, you can participate anywhere too. So I mentioned like some of the other projects are specific, like visit this nature center or whatever, but this is literally, your park, your neighborhood, your backyard, anywhere, making observations and sharing them. This is another one. There's a migratory bird day if you're really into birding. If you want to head to Detroit in May, we're doing the Great Detroit Bird Off in all those different parks. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Detroit Bird Alliance, that's the first time that they put that together this year. Okay, and here's, this is SciStarter. So I mentioned it in the beginning. So SciStarter is basically, it's a database of citizen science projects, thousands of them. So you create a free account. You can search by keyword, bumblebees, butterflies, water quality, air quality, anything that you're interested in participating in. And it will pull up projects from all over. You just want to make sure that you look at like the location, right? But this is a great place to start. They also have several trainings. You can learn more about community science. So this is like my profile on there. And what's really great too is that it will save, like if you're interested in a project, you can kind of, save ones that you maybe want to take a look at later and organize them in your dashboard. And then what I also love is it will show you your contributions. So anytime you participate in an affiliate project, it will track that and share that on the website for you. These are just a few more that I wanted to mention that I found through SciStarter. The COCORAS, which is the Community Collaboration of Rain, Hail, and Snow Network. So that's participation monitoring. That has been one I just started last year, and it's so fun, right? You get a rain gauge, put it out there, and it literally only takes a few minutes a day to go out there and say like how much you're seeing or not, and measuring it and reporting that. But that data is actually used, by the National Weather Service. And what I love about it is that it gets me outside, like even if it's just a few minutes, right? Project Feeder Watch is a great one. That's how I spend the winter months, right? I love being out in the garden, but during the winter, I'm counting birds at my bird feeder. And I wanted to mention too, SciStarter has some great resources for educators as well as scouts. Specifically, this is my daughter. She was doing a Think Like a Citizen Scientist, earning a badge through that. So that was really fun. Your library can also be a community science hub. So our Grosse Pointe Library is a community science hub through SciStarter, and basically we have these kits that members of the community can check out and participate in different projects. So there's observing pollinators, and I believe the other one is measuring biodiversity, and there's lots of other different ones on the website that you can choose from. But I love that this is something that patrons can come in and check out and learn about and see if that's something that they want to continue participating in. And there's the website there if you're interested in learning more about bringing it to your library. And this is the Wild Ones Wayne County website. We just updated it. So if you go to our website and you go under programs, there's a drop down for community science. And then I've listed a lot of the different projects I talked about today, which I know is a lot. It's a lot of information, but if you're interested in something specifically too, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help try to connect you with what may be a good fit. And I also wanted to put the Wild Ones had a really great blog, what was it, last year, about community science, which had reading lists and recommended books that I really liked. So that is on there as well.
Kelly, I have a question.
Sure.
Carol G. Online. Do you know if iNaturalist wants folks to repeat observations each year? For example, if you record a flicker in 2025, should you do it in the same location in 2026?
Absolutely, because it's really important that you're still seeing that flicker there, right? Yes. Because if right, that's true. That's a good point, but no, yeah, that wouldn't be like a duplicate observation. I think where it gets a little bit questionable is like, well, do I report a bird on iNaturalist and on eBird? Probably not. That's where you would maybe not duplicate that observation, is using like several different platforms. You would just choose which one you want to use and use that, which makes it easier for us too, right? So in conclusion, scientists, right, need more data everywhere. What you don't see is as important as what you do. That 0 on that rain gauge sometimes can get really frustrating, especially thinking about the drought that we're in. But that is so important, right, to be recording that 0, to say I haven't seen, something. So that's really important. And I mentioned this earlier, but record and share what's common, not just rare. I think we like our little robin here, right? We see them all the time, but maybe there will be a point where we don't see them all the time. So it's really important to get that data into the hands of scientists so they can help figure out strategies for conservation. And be part of a global community that's paying attention, right? That curiosity. You don't need to have perfect knowledge. You just need to get out there and make a point to notice what's happening around you, because look at all the cool things you might find, right? Leafcutter bees and this awesome dagger moth on my red bud in the backyard last year. You can literally do community science all year long. I had fun making this graphic, but I saw this and I thought this was such a great, so a single observation can change what we know, right? It absolutely can change what we know. So whatever level of engagement we have, there are places for all of us. One of my favorite advocates, Lorraine Johnson. So whatever you decide to do, however you decide to get involved, whether it's one project or just, observations here and there, I hope you'll consider getting out there and taking action. So thank you so much. we have time for, I know we had some questions in there, but do we have any more? Yeah.
And of course, everything is connected to everything else.
Yes.
Plant, native plant. Well, like,
Native, you mean like for recording native plant? Well, I mean, just iNaturalist. If you were to pick one of these things, iNaturalist is a great, because it's just such a huge database and it's going toward, you know, so many different projects and things. That would probably be the best. I didn't mention this, but I should say that with iNaturalist, it does need to be wild. So like if they don't want pictures of plants that you've planted, for example. You can certainly track that for yourself, and there are options in there. So like you would just mark it captive cultivated, so that scientists know that that's not that didn't just, you know, grow there. You planted it there. But yeah, as far as like learning about any plants, animals, insects, I think the big one is iNaturalist.
Says he wishes he heard this presentation last week.
Oh.
17 robins on the phone.
Whoa, that's pretty amazing. It really is, and that's how I got started. Was you know, journey north with my daughter and our pollinator garden in the backyard, and during the pandemic. We were out there looking for, you know, reporting, because it's not just the butterflies, it's the caterpillars, right? And the eggs and the milkweed, and so all of it is connected and important information, just filling in those data gaps for scientists. So we are scientists. Thank you. Oh. The BioBlitz, yeah. So the BioBlitz is basically a tally of all living things at a certain, so you pick a location, right? And a day and a time, and you invite people to come and document as many species as they can in that time period. So it's just, oh, go ahead. So yeah, different organizations. So like for example, there, like I mentioned, the Udolph Garden had one, right? An event. Why am I blanking off the top of my head? The different, see if we can go back here. There are literally so many. Oh.
Which chapter could organize?
Yes, a Wild Ones chapter could organize one. I don't have them listed really on here, but yeah, they're just different. Oh, the Monarch Joint Venture does the Monarch Blitz every year, so that's not a specific location. But if you look, keep an eye out for different like parks and nature centers. They organize those things. We're during the City Nature Challenge. I'm going to be doing a workshop on iNaturalist during the City Nature Challenge at the EI Environmental Interpretive Center in Dearborn. So our chapter, as well as members of the public, if you're interested, it's April 25th, so it's the Saturday during the challenge. I'm going to be talking a little bit more about iNaturalist, and then we're going to go out and do observations. So yeah, anyone could coordinate those.
so you can do it through the iNaturalist,
Different project.
Yeah. You do it, and then the National Park Service also offers it.
Cool. Yeah. There really, once you start looking, there's just really so much out there that you can participate in. And I'm hoping that more Wild Ones chapters will start getting involved in community science. In fact, like for the City Nature Challenge, I mentioned we are doing stuff for the Detroit Tri-County area. That's Wayne, Macomb, and Oakland. But I mean, there's no reason why next year, because I'm a first-time organizer with the Detroit Zoo, is who's really running it. But Wild Ones Wayne County partnered with the zoo to do that. but maybe we can incorporate, let's get Ann Arbor in there, right? So it's really a lot of opportunities to get this information out there and get more people involved.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was a wonderful talk.
Oh, I'm glad. Thank you.
And now cheers.
Oh, the chair.